The Sky This Month with your host, Dave McDonald.
Welcome to The Sky This Month. I'm your host, Dave McDonald, and this is The Sky This Month for October 2024. We have a great show for you as always. I hope you enjoyed last month's show as we interviewed Melissa Edwards, the new Executive Director of the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center, and I hope that you will be following the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center at StarHop, StarHop.com, for great programming, and every first Friday of every month there's a special program going on in addition to some neat telescopes out there. Now, I want to just mention right at the top of the show here that next month for our November show, I'm going to be talking with Lieutenant Colonel Scott Poteet. And he has, as you might see on his name badge there, they call him the Kid. But Lieutenant Colonel Scott Poteet was the pilot of the Dawn spacecraft that made history. SpaceX, it went the furthest away from Earth at about 875 miles above Earth, which is the furthest human beings have been, and there were 4 people in the spacecraft since we went to the moon and came back, and that was in December of 1972. So it's been a while, and then we had spacewalks going on. We're going to talk about the mission and Lieutenant Colonel Poteet's part in the Polaris Dawn mission. So you want to be sure to tune in for The Sky This Month for November. Now, another neat thing that's going on very recently is we have acquired a new moon. Now, this is an artist representation. This is not a photograph by any means, because the new moon that we acquired on September 29th is nowhere near as big as, this image would lead you to believe. It's about the size of a moderately sized house, a couple of coach buses. It's not, super duper huge, but it is a bona fide asteroid, and that was captured as it's going by Earth's gravity. And in a moment you're going to see an animation. A couple times we'll play the animation for you so that you can see the path of the asteroid as it's captured by Earth's gravity and goes pretty much around Earth, and then it's going to take off. And so at the moment there's a little discrepancy. Maybe it's going to come back in 50 years or so, and others are like, well, it's on a hyperbolic trajectory, so it's going to buzz around Earth. It's going to leave us on November 25th to be gone and lost and heading out forever. So, but it's kind of neat that we have this moon, extra moon, for a few days here until November 25th. But those of you who say, oh man, that would be so neat to go out and see 2 moons out there, well, you can't. Not only can you not see them with the naked eye, you're not going to look up and see, well, oh, look, there's another moon next to our good old man in the moon. But even with a decent-sized amateur telescope, 12-inch telescope, which is a good-sized amateur telescope, not big enough to see it. So in the realm of things, it's really quite small, and it's really quite dim. But we know it's there, and there'll be news broadcasts from time to time, I imagine, talking about, and we'll check it out on nasa.gov, of where it is, what it's doing, and if the timeline still holds, it's going to be taken off on November 25th. So enjoy this animation that you'll see the path, the path of this new moon that we have for a few days. Like 56 days, I think it is. So that's really kind of neat. And then what we're going to be talking about in the moment are the planets. We have a actually 2 meteor showers this month. We have the Draconid meteor shower, which is you're going to be facing north, and that's going to be at the beginning of the month. And the Draconids come early on in the month, and we're talking October 8th for that. And then later on in the month, October 21st, we have the Orionid meteor shower. And the neat thing about the Orionid meteor shower is that when you see the Orionid meteors flash through the sky, you're actually looking at debris from Halley's Comet, because that's the dust trail left by Halley's Comet when Earth plows through that dust trail that makes the meteors that comprise the Orionids. And we'll show you when and how to look at that. That's going to be happening. The sweet spot is October 21st, but again, several days before, several days after, you'll still get to see some of those meteors. And then one of the neat things coming up is the comet, and I'm not even going to pretend to be able to pronounce it, but we have a great comet that right now, at the beginning of the month of October, is visible in the morning sky. But as we get to October 12th is when, for us, it's going to be jumping, so to speak, into the evening sky after sunset. So I'm going to show you where to find that. And that's really going to be a fascinating comet, because depending on how it actually works out, it could be the brightest comet in many, many years going backwards and forwards. The comet Neowise, if you might remember that several years ago, was touted as this is really going to be great. And what happened is, as it got close to the sun, as comets do, it broke up and broke apart and was overall, very disappointing in terms of being able to see a comet in the sky from Earth. But we think at this point that this comet in the middle of October is not going to disappoint us. And it should be even a negative, could be as bright as a negative magnitude 3 magnitude, which is shining brighter than the planet Jupiter. And I'm going to show you in a moment, when we look at the night sky, where to find the planet Jupiter, which is the brightest object in that part of the sky, unless the moon is in the area, which I'm going to show you a nice photo to take with the moon, the Pleiades, and Jupiter. So great things are happening in the night sky. So let's go ahead and take a look at the night sky. Okay, well, let's have a look at, I mentioned the Draconid meteor shower, and this one is easy to see. You're facing north, and the neat thing is that as you face north, you see the circumpolar stars, the circumpolar constellations. And circumpolar basically means that they rotate around the North Star. So you might notice right here at the bottom of your screen, you see the Big Dipper. And remember, the Big Dipper is not a constellation. The Big Dipper is what we call an asterism. An asterism is a familiar shape made up of stars that may be from the same or different constellations. So you can see, as I have the lines drawn here, that there are more lines that extend beyond the actual Dipper part. The legs are behind some trees there, but you can see the head of a bear, the nose of the bear. You can see the front legs and paws of the bear. So the Big Dipper, for us in the United States, is part of Ursa Major, the Big Bear. And we can use the pointer stars. The bottom star at the end of the Dipper part down here is called Merak. And then this star above it is called Dubhe, D-U-B-H-E, or Dubhe. And then those two stars from Merak through Dubhe, you kind of use them as a pointer, and they point you to the North Star. The North Star is not super duper bright. It's like number 48 or 49 on the hit parade of stars in either hemisphere. It's a magnitude 2 star, but it's the brightest star in that area of the sky. And note that the North Star, we call it Polaris, is at the end of the handle of the Little Dipper. And the Little Dipper is part of the Little Bear. And all the stars, as you face north, as time goes on, and you can watch this, if you go out like every half hour or so at night for a few hours, you'll see the North Star is going to stay exactly where it is. Like maybe you can put the North Star over a point in your house or over your flagpole or somewhere, and then you'll notice that everything else is going to go around it. The best way to illustrate that would be to get a camera, put your camera on a tripod, use the bulb setting, or open the lens up for a period of time. You may need to stop it down a little because you want to have the shutter open for an hour or two, and a lot of light's going to come in, so you don't want it to be open too wide. And then anyway, the point being that after an hour or two, when you look at your image, you'll see what we call star trails. Every star point of light will be leaving a trail, and you'll see that there's going to be a nice circular pattern of stars that are going to be going around the North Star. So that's a fun thing to do with your camera, and maybe your phone has a setting that you could try that as well. But you need to hold the camera or your phone steady still for an hour or two. So that is a little bit about the idea of circumpolar, how to find, again, this is about 11 o'clock at night, and about 11 o'clock at night, and this is the 8th of October, so the Big Dipper is very close to the northern horizon. So you need a clear northern horizon without a barn or somebody's house or a hill or something for this time. But as time goes on, as the evening goes on, the Big Dipper will get higher and will be going around the North Star. Now, the Draconids are called the Draconids because they seem to emanate or radiate from the constellation of Draco, the dragon. And I think you can see that Draco, the dragon, is like this winding dragon. The head is here. That's kind of where the radiant point of the Draconids is. And you can see how it comes around, and it comes around the Little Dipper and this way here. And so you can follow those stars. Some of them are fairly faint. Interestingly enough, just as a side point, this star right here is named Thuban, Thuban, and 5,000 years ago, Thuban was the North Star. All the stars in the sky, particularly as you faced north, rotated around this star. But it's been displaced with our current North Star we call Polaris. So, and that's another conversation for another time, but that's due from a concept we call precession. So, Draconids, October 8th, go out pretty much any time, but 11 o'clock at night. It's plenty dark, and look up. And they can be anywhere. You don't have to be looking right at the head of the dragon to see Draconids, but just be looking anywhere in the sky. And if you trace the stars, or I should say the meteors backwards, if they end up near the head of the dragon, then it's probably a legit Draconid. So, neat meteor shower, October 8th. So now we're going to skip ahead a few days to the evening right after sunset. This is October 13th. Now, October 13th is a couple of neat features that are going on here, and one thing that you can see is the planet Venus. So the planet Venus, very, very close to the horizon. So this is after sunset. This is around 6:45 or so, so we may be in the realm of 45 minutes or so after sunset. Venus, very bright, so even though the sky has some lightness, has some brightness to it, Venus is incredibly bright, so you can't miss it. The trick is You know, is it going to be down behind some trees? Is it going to be behind a hill, somebody else's house? So you want to go someplace where you have a good west to southwest horizon. And Venus throughout the month will be visible, but it's not going to be getting much higher because what we call the ecliptic, which is also the path of the planets, is very shallow angle coming in towards the horizon. So opportunity to see Venus all month, 45 minutes or so after sunset, but very close to the southwestern horizon. But October 13th is the feature right now, and that's when this comet is going to emerge into the evening sky after sunset. Remember I said earlier in the month, it's in the morning sky towards the east, and now it's going to be showing up for you in the west a little bit after sunset. And so this comet, which is called Comet 2023A Tsuchinshan, if I said that right, Atlas. And that comet, as I mentioned earlier, promises to be a real eye pleaser. It should be getting really bright. No trouble seeing it at all. So here's a video clip that's going to tell you a little more information about the comet.
As the comet moves closer to Earth, it will also pass through the LASCO C3 field of view on the SOHO spacecraft between October 7th and 10. During this period, SOHO will provide detailed images of the comet, including its tail and potential outbursts. After this, the comet will reappear in the evening sky as it makes its closest approach to Earth on October 12th. This is when the comet is expected to be at its brightest, potentially reaching a magnitude of 2 to 3, making it visible to the naked eye under dark skies. And in the evening sky after October 12th, once it has made its closest approach to Earth, observers will need a clear view of the eastern or southwestern horizons, depending on the time of observation, and a good pair of binoculars or a telescope to catch the full splendor of the comet's tail. Additionally, photographers may be able to capture stunning images of the comet paired with celestial objects, like the moon, Venus, or nearby stars.
Well, hope you enjoyed that little video clip, some more detailed information about it, and we thank NASA for the use of that. Then we've mentioned before about the star Arcturus, and we find it exactly the same way. The Big Dipper is just off towards the right of your screen, and you can see the Big Dipper here, and you take the handle of the Big Dipper, remember it makes the arc, and you follow the arc all the way down to Arcturus. Arcturus is a red giant star, and it's easy to find. It shines very bright. So this is kind of a neat picture. And again, this happens to be October 13th. But similar, October 14th, 15th, the comet is on the move. However, Venus and Arcturus aren't going to go very far. But wouldn't that be great to get a picture with Arcturus, the comet, and Venus all in the same frame? That would be really kind of cool. So hope that you get to find the comet, and binoculars will certainly be a help. Okay, so next we're going to jump ahead, and what we're going to be doing right now is we are going to be looking at October 19th. This is around 11 p.m., October 19th, and I chose October 19th because we have something that's really kind of neat happening. Is the moon is going to be right near the Pleiades star cluster. And this Pleiades star cluster is featured in the winter. We're not quite to winter yet, so that's why we're kind of late at night, 11 p.m. And you can see we're not that far above the eastern horizon. As a matter of fact, Orion, the hunter, you can see his belt is just barely above the eastern horizon. But on the 19th, you look for the moon, and not far away, you will see the Pleiades star cluster. And that's a great opportunity for a photo. And then to the lower left of the moon, we find the planet Jupiter, which, as I mentioned before, is the brightest object in the night sky, unless the moon is out, which on October 19th it surely is. And then on the 20th, the moon is going to be making its way closer to Jupiter, leaving the Pleiades, approaching Jupiter. So October 19th, 20th, great photo op for that. But October 21st is the night to be looking for the Orionid. It's the peak. But as I said, a few days before the 21st, a few days after the 21st, you still have a good chance at seeing some Orionid meteors. And as you see those meteors streak through the sky, remember you're looking at debris from Halley's Comet, which is kind of cool. So Orion is often pictured with a sword over his head and a shield in the other hand. And you can see the part of Orion that has the sword over his head right here is the radiant point of the Orionids. But again, they can appear anywhere in the sky. You don't have to be able to see Orion to see Orionids because they can flash through the sky. But just like for the Draconids, if you trace the meteor trail backwards, where does it seem to emanate from? And if it seems to emanate from above Orion's head, then it's a genuine Orionid. It's a genuine piece of material from Halley's Comet. So how cool is that? All right, and then we're going to go to the next slide. And basically what's happening with the next slide is we're going to take the image that you just saw and we kind of moved it down a little bit. So the triangle that you saw here is the constellation Triangulum. This is the constellation of Aries the Ram. The moon is in the same place. But to see what is on your screen, you're going to have to look up higher into the sky. And the objective here on the same night, October 19th, but what I'm showing you now, it really doesn't matter the date, because the things I'm showing you aren't going anywhere. So I want to first point out the double cluster. This is often referred to as the double cluster in Perseus, and that is between Cassiopeia, that's the W shape that you'll see overhead, and as you face south, southeast, look up and you'll see that W shape in the sky. That's the constellation of Cassiopeia, who is the queen of Ethiopia. And between her and this, what I kind of think it looks like a wishbone going on here, but this would be the head of Perseus, and this double cluster is in between. You can just kind of barely make out some fuzziness there with the unaided eye. Binoculars will be easy, and a telescope, it's really awesome to take a look at the double cluster. So the double cluster looks like this. And the double cluster, as you look at it, you can see there's kind of like two lobes there, and they are about 4,700 solar masses, so like 4,700 times the mass of our sun, and the smaller one is about 3,700 times the mass of our sun. However, the whole area that you see there, there's so many stars besides just those two lobes there. All right, we're back at the map, and I want to just review with you how to find these things. So two ways to find the Andromeda Galaxy. One is find Cassiopeia, that W that's in the sky. And you see the narrower angle here, the acute angle. The other angle is what we call an obtuse angle, greater than 90 degrees. The acute angle is less than 90 degrees, and that kind of makes like a pointer, and it kind of points down to the Andromeda Galaxy. And you can make out, on a dark, moonless night, you can make out the Andromeda Galaxy with just your eyes, and you can kind of see a little fuzzy spot there. But then again, binoculars, oh yeah, that's it. A telescope is like, wow. Not going to be the same as the image I just showed you. That's a Hubble Space Telescope image. But you'll be able to see the bigness of it, the spiralness of it, and some individual stars that are in it, which is cool. Another way to find it is to find the Great Square of Pegasus, which is the big square in the sky, fairly bright stars. I remember the term asterism. The Great Square of Pegasus is an asterism. It's a familiar shape made up of stars from Pegasus, the flying horse. And this star here is Alpherat, and it technically belongs to the constellation of Andromeda. So here we have a square. 3 stars belong to Pegasus, 1 star belongs to Andromeda. it's an asterism. And then if we take the star Alpheratz and we go 2 stars towards the left, 2 fainter stars up, we also come to the Andromeda Galaxy. So a couple ways to find it. And when you find it with binoculars, telescope, you won't be disappointed. So those are some neat things that you can find up in the night sky. And then I want you to be sure you remember to look for the Draconids, October 8th. Start looking for the Comet, October 13th. And after sunset, several days after that, you get the Orionid meteor shower happening October 21st. And all night, pretty much any night, you can find the double cluster or the Andromeda Galaxy. And I want you to be on the lookout for our next month's show, November, the sky this month, November, where I will be interviewing Lieutenant Colonel Scott Poteet, who was the spacecraft pilot of the Polaris Dawn mission. Again, a recent record-breaking mission. We haven't been that far, 875 miles away from Earth, since the Apollo days in 1972 with Apollo 17. And then this mission also had a spacewalk and 4 civilian on board. It was a tremendous mission. So we'll be talking about the mission and particularly with Lieutenant Colonel Scott Poteet in our next month's show, so don't miss that. Hope you enjoyed this show. So many things to see in October. And I'm Dave McDonald for The Sky This Month.